Hey guys, lately on all sorts of social medias, you see people complaining about the cost of racing, and I agree. A lot of things are out of hand. Costs are extreme, especially for the payouts. We're still getting same payouts most tracks had 15, 20 years ago. And people ask me, how can you afford new cars and new engines or getting engines rebuilt mid-season after you blow them up? And honestly, it's difficult, but I have a lot of great supporters behind me, between sponsors and crew and family and whatnot. But also off season, I make my own parts. Most racers go to their chassis builder or the parts guy or wherever they go, and buy parts. And honestly, if I had to do that, I would not be racing, at least not competitively in a modified. It just wouldn't make sense for someone like me. So here we are. I got a tubing bender. And I know tubing benders can be expensive. My dad built this one actually many, many years ago. So I am fortunate in that way. I know not everybody's gonna be able to go out and get a tubing bender. So a lot of things may not be possible for every driver, especially if you have to go buy one, as something like this would be a pretty good investment for your race shop or your race team. Luckily, my dad had one built when he was racing. He drew everything out, cut it, had a machine shop, had one of his sponsors cut it, drill the holes, everything he had to do. He just had to put it together when it got here. So I am fortunate for that. But we are making some upper control arms. So right here I have just a 1-inch round tube. We're gonna go through, I'll show you. We're gonna bend it up. I have a jig built, we'll put it in my jig, and we'll weld it up and show you guys the finished product. It's a little bit of a slow process, but it works really well, so we use it when we can. And if you're wondering, I do have some marks up here on the die to show me how far to bend it, so I know exactly where to go every time. So over here I got my jig, right here, pretty simple, just a flat stock. This is a jig for the upper on the current car I have. Slide it down this way. We got some from probably one of my old B mods and cars in the past that we had. So we still have options if we got to change something up. So on here we do have upper balls rent cup from Close Racing Supply. Slide that over the thing there. I did already make up one side of my upper control arm, so we're going to use that. We'll trace out our lines on here, so we can bring it over and cut the tube here. Alright, so we got all our pieces made up, cut, everything's in the jig, ready to go. We just got to fire up the welder, weld it up. Now we'll just kind of let it cool down, so we'll fit everything back together. Once it's cooled down, we'll get it cleaned up again, get it painted, and then we'll put some FK rod and half-inch heim joints in it. Okay, here we are. Final step of building this upper control arm. As you can see, it's painted already. Didn't really need to show you guys that step. It's pretty simple there. So final step, we'll put our ball joint pin in. Cap for the ball joint. We have some set screws that'll hold the cap in place. And then of course, my FK rod ends, half-inch heim joints that'll go in. That's what we'll use to mount it to the car. So we'll get started here. First we'll put these heim joints in. Lost my jam nuts for a second. And we like to take a little layer of grease, just run it over the threads so that way nothing gets stuck as it sits on the car for a long time. Or this one will be sitting in the trailer for a while. Just a touch more and we'll put it into the upper control arm here.
I know a lot of people don't like to use grease. Some would prefer anti-seize or something like that. I've also heard of people using some sort of thread locker. I definitely do not recommend that at all. Simply because when we're trying to change stuff, especially at the racetrack, we want everything to be fast. If I have to adjust this, I don't want to be stuck in there. You know, just want to be able to use a one wrench to kind of crack this loose so I can adjust it when needed. And typically when we're going to be putting this in the car, I would lock these two jam nuts. But since this will be a spare, what we're going to do is kind of leave them loose right now, and I'll get a measurement then from the one on the car, and we'll use that to kind of get as close to where it is in case it has to be put on at the racetrack when we won't have time to check the caster and camber again. So we'll get it close. We get it close when if we have to put it on at the racetrack. If we're able to put it on at the shop, we'll go through and set it up correctly, check the caster and camber and all that again. So now the ball joint pin, this Close Racing Supply, the whole housing itself, you have to use as part of the A-arm. So that's the housing, and we got the pin. We're going to grease that up. We got to just make sure the housing is clean. We'll put some grease on the pin itself. Got a little bit too much there, so we'll put that inside. Really shouldn't need a whole lot of grease when it's being put together. You know, especially if you're doing maintenance every single week, you should be giving this, you know, one pump for every couple nights of racing. Some guys like to do it more than that. We race, you know, 30 laps a night, so sometimes you don't have to give it a full pump every single night. Now if I can learn how to thread this in, we'll be set. Get some grease off my finger here. These ball joint cups are really simple. All you need is one wrench you use to tighten it down. You want to tighten it down. Like right there, it's super stiff on me. I don't really like that. We'll back it off just a hair. Still a little bit stiff on me. I do have some movement there. Back it off just a little bit more. So now I got some movement. I want to twist it too. Everyone just does side to side movement, make sure it moves that way. Well, you got to make sure it twists, because this is what your steering knuckle is going to be bolted to. You got to make sure that turns when you're steering your wheel. I'm going to back it up just a touch more. I have no slop in it anyway. It twists freely, it moves. I got full rotation on it. Lateral movements everywhere I need to be, nice and free. So we'll go put the set screws in it. Hopefully it stays just as free as it is right now. Sometimes if you tighten the set screws too tight, you can warp the cup, and then you'll lose that good feel you have in your ball joint. So we're going to try not to do that. So a little bit of paint in my threads, but that's fine. They don't have to be super tight. Like that one, it locked it right up. We'll get our second set screw in. Just a little bit of pressure on it. Ball joint still nice and free. Probably give it a little bit more. Just a little bit. There we go. And there we are. Brand new upper control arm, built right here in the shop. And that's it.